Hello, this is the Tradesight Stocks, Futures, and Forex Market Preview and Global Economic Roadmap, Data Roadmap for the week beginning Sunday, the 3rd of January, 2021. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2021. Ending Friday, the 8th. Hope you had a good trading week. Here's a look at, hope you had a good holiday as well. Now that everything is settled and we're done for the year, people don't have to hold their positions to not lock in their tax gains, and so usually January is a very good month in the stocks and futures market. Whether we get anything in Forex obviously still remains to be seen as well, but things usually start to shake or loose here, and the fact that we had a nice layout for the holiday with a Friday for the first, so you're just starting the year with a full week and whatever. It usually still takes a day or so for things to get back to normal. Keep in mind that the scans aren't going to turn up much for stocks based on the fact that we had the light action at the end of the week. People were mostly gone last week, let's be honest. So here's the dollar index daily chart. Swept and touched new lows at one point during the week. Let's go through some of the major Forex pairs. Here's the euro dollar, obviously the inverse of the dollar index. Here's the pound dollar, closed at new highs. Pound against the dollar. Here's the Aussie against the dollar, closed at new highs. Euro yen closes very flat. Look at how flat this thing's been for a while now. And the pound yen also up a little bit. But watch that risk line, that 142 level. That's going to be the key. Now let's take a look at what the intra week action was. 30-minute candles on the and remember, with the first was a closed day, so I can slide this. We can just look at Monday through Thursday here. High to low is only about 100 pips, 120 pips on the euro dollar, which is not very interesting. The 13 sell signal was kind of the high of the week. On the pound dollar, again, if I slide it, so we're just looking at this last short week, high to low for the week was, about 250 pips. We had a couple winners, a couple days without anything triggering, kind of what you expect for end of year, so I wouldn't call any of that super exciting. All right, let's move on to the stock market stuff. Here's a look at the ES front month futures contract. This is the daily chart of the broad market in futures form, closed out the year at highs. Let's go through some of the majors. We got crude oil up 2 cents to 48.42. Gold up $8.20, kind of mid-range for the year. S&P cash, like I said, closed up 24.03. So it's a positive close to end the year. The NASDAQ 100 was up a very small amount on Thursday, the full day of Thursday. SOX closed up a little bit. Biotech's also down, in fact, just a little bit, hanging near the highs of the year, but down. The Russell 2000 also down 5 points, which is pretty flat. The VIX literally down 2 cents, doesn't really matter. Closed the year at 22.75. The trend closes at 1.02. Puts the 10-day moving average at 1.19, so that's not any sort of signal for us. Volume on the NASDAQ, only 4.8 billion shares on Thursday, the last day of the year. So even though it did drop last week, it's not as bad as some prior years. Volume just continued to chug along, but you could tell it was a lot of robo trading. Advanced decline ratio on the NASDAQ, negative 278. So more stocks were down than up. On the New York, plus 574. So here more stocks were up than down. Google gains $16.39 to close out the year. Near its highs. Apple down $1.03. Also near its highs for the year. Netflix up 16.14. Nice pattern on Netflix. This is the long base. If this thing breaks out, look out. Amazon down 28.92. Still holding near the highs of the year. Note that 13 sell signal back in August was the high. Tesla up $10.89. That's a new closing high. Remember, projection mode puts us in, shows the last candle, so now we're at 11. So you get to a 13 in 2 days here potentially on Tesla for a sell signal. Facebook up $1.29. Zoom closes down 16.08, breaking the lows and heading in to fill that little gap. Zoom obviously pretty overpriced. Goldman Sachs on the other hand up 426. Quite a run. The end of the year, up 80 on Goldman Sachs or up 70 in the last month, basically. Last 2 months, sorry. TLT, the 20-year bond ETF, up 23 cents. The Dow Jones up 196. All right, let's look at the intra-week action. Oops, sorry, what did I just do there? All right, there we go. Let's go to 10-minute candles, but again, it's a short week, so I'm going to slide it. So we're just basically looking at this week itself. We did gap up on Monday from where we had left off on Christmas Eve. And then you can see, gap up, one little push higher, and then dead flat. Tuesday, gap up, came back to fill it very quickly, mostly flat, went a little lower over lunch. Wednesday, back up, so we're right where we were the prior day, and just drifted really dead on Wednesday. Thursday, mostly dead, and then there's a late run in the day, and that was pretty much the biggest move of the week in the last 2 hours on Thursday on New Year's Eve itself. NASDAQ side, not much different. Actually flatter, really, if you look at it. So there's that. That's what we've seen here to close out the year. All right, now, so what does this mean? Obviously, the layout for this week will be this. Monday's probably still a little bit of a slow start. People getting back into it. Technicals aren't full because there was some lighter volume last week, stuff like that. So it usually takes a day or so for everything to get back into swing, but it doesn't have to. And keep in mind, like I said, the key and the most important thing here is anything that was being held because of tax purposes can now be sold. And that usually leads to some action early in January. There's also the old adage, as go the first 3 days of January, if they go in the same direction, the rest of the month is usually the other direction. So in other words, if we're up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll probably close the month of January lower. And vice versa, if we're down 3 days, that's just how it works. If you don't really get a clear reading, then it won't matter for the first 3 days, then it won't matter for later. All right, let's go through the news. So New Zealand starts the week on a bank holiday. AIG Manufacturing Index out of Australia. Japan, final manufacturing index. China's manufacturing PMI. Commodity prices out of Australia going into Monday. Spanish, Swiss, French, Italian, German, and the broad European and UK manufacturing PMI numbers. Money supply out of the UK along with mortgage approvals. OPEC meetings. We got manufacturing PMI then out of Canada and here in the US. Construction spending here in the U.S. at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Monetary base numbers out of Japan Monday night. Job advertisements out of Australia. German retail sales out of Europe. This is going into Tuesday now. CPI out of Switzerland. French preliminary CPI. Spanish unemployment change. German unemployment change. M3 money supply. Private loans out of Europe. IPPI out of Canada. New Zealand's GDT price index. ISM manufacturing PMI and numbers here in the U.S. at 10. Ward's total vehicle sales usually near the close. Australia's AIG Services Index. BRC Shop Price Index out of the UK. Caxton Services PMI out of China. And then we repeat. So we've got 10-year bond auction out of Japan and their consumer confidence. And then even though Italy goes on a bank holiday, we repeat this process where it's German preliminary CPI, Spanish Services PMI, Italian, French final, German Services PMI, broad European Services PMI, UK's Services PMI, PPI out of Europe, 10-year bond auction out of the UK and Germany. ADP non-farm employment change here in the U.S. at 8:15 a.m. Eastern Time. Then our final services PMI number at 9:45. Factory orders at 10. Crude oil inventories at 10:30. Fed minutes from the last meeting at 2. Average cash earnings out of Japan. Then Australia's got their building approvals and trade balance. Going to Thursday, Swiss unemployment rate, factory orders out of Germany, retail sales out of Switzerland, construction PMI out of the UK, housing equity withdrawal out of the UK, CPI flash estimate out of Europe, and then Italy's preliminary CPI, retail sales out of Europe, French 10-year bond auction, challenge of job cuts here in the US, trade balance out of Canada, along with ours. So that's one of our big three. We'd be half size on the Forex stuff going in Wednesday into Thursday because of that, along with the weekly initial and continuing jobless claims numbers. IV PMI, ISM Services PMI here in the U.S., Natty Gas here in the U.S., AIG Construction Index out of Australia, and then Japan's household spending and 30-year bond auction, and then their leading indicators. German industrial production and trade balance, French consumer spending, French industrial production, French trade balance. Core currency reserves out of Switzerland. UK's Halifax HPI. Monthly unemployment rate out of Europe and out of Italy and the broad European sector. And then here in the US and Canada, the unemployment changes and rates, along with our non-farm employment numbers, which is a big one. So again, we'll be half size for Forex Thursday night going into Friday for that. Final wholesale inventories at 10 a.m. and consumer credit at 3. So there's some decent data. 2 nights we'll be half size on Forex. Everything else, hopefully start the year off and get us some information, and let's see what happens now that the tax consequences are behind us. Other than that, it's a straight up trading week, and let's just start the year off well. Charts as usual brought to you by eSignal. If you've not yet taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. We will help you out for a couple weeks. Have a great trading week. Welcome to 2021.